Well in advance of my noon appointment to claim the junior position the congressman once held at the law firm of Biltmore, Hook and Carver, I woke with the sun and dressed as you find me. Although today I leap into the workforce, I am 2 days promoted from law school. This haste into work is not my own. It is the insistence of my Aunt Rummy that rest only robs heaven of its sweetness. She is a wise woman, or at least that is what she assures me, and knowing few women, I must take her on faith. You see, growing up at want for either parent, my aunt raised me. The congressman, oh, that's how father preferred to be called by his lessers, died when I was 6. However, in even my faint memories of him, he was as stoic and professional as any district representative or father one could wish to have. In looking back, he did seem to suffer bouts of melancholy, and perhaps it was due to my mother's disappearance. My family belongs to the caste of those that arrived at these shores aboard the Mayflower vessel, and to the contempt of those extracted from its manifest, the congressman fell in love and took for wife my mother, Louisa Friend, a Jewess from Brooklyn. I understand Aunt Rummy and my mother did battle, and my aunt made the congressman decide between his old family and the new. He made his choice, and mother abandoned the house, returned to Brooklyn, and was never again heard of. My aunt blamed the ordeal on the congressman's wandering nature and pledged to purge it from his son and heir. So I am to tread a similar path. Into the firm, like the congressman. Through Congress, like the congressman, but accumulating a suitable wife and heir, most unlike him. I was kept on track quite literally during my entire youth, for until entering law school I was watched always and escorted to every appointment by our large, balding manservant Randolph. However, on my 10th birthday, my desire to learn more of my mother led me secretly into the congressman's study, where in a locked drawer in his dust-covered desk, I found a photograph of her. It was the first time I had seen the face of Louisa Friend, but I felt immediately connected. You see, my face is hers, and I knew finally why I would catch Aunt Rummy staring into my eyes as if at a despised villain. In the photograph, my mother wears a necklace which at the end forms the 7 stars of the Pleiades constellation, and for a brief moment, I even had the necklace, but it has long disappeared. In those moments when I feel quite alone, I wish I had it for comfort and guidance and other such frivolities. I remember I was interrupted discovering my mother's photograph by Randolph's hollow voice calling from downstairs, "Happy birthday, Master Francis. Now it's time for surgery." So I tucked the photograph into my breast pocket and made the gallows walk down the stairs. For what was meant to be the removal of a devilishly painful molar, it was settled that Martin Handkerchief, doctor of dental surgery, would operate. Dr. Handkerchief and his wife were new to America and were Catholics, and ordinarily Aunt Rummy would not have selected him. However, she felt a good surgeon is hard to come by, and he was regarded highly. The procedure was set for my 10th birthday, sparing no moment for empty-headed celebrations, and Randolph drove us south to the doctor's offices. But the doctor never had the chance to operate. For within the eggshell white of his waiting room that Wednesday evening, I fell swiftly in love with Dr. Handkerchief's daughter, Laurelei Handkerchief. And she had different designs. She had waves of chestnut hair and large, probing eyes which devotedly studied a weathered map depicting an intricate tangle of boxes and trees and ponds. I followed her finger and I listened to the warm whisper which narrated her discoveries and renounced personal dental hygiene that I might have reason to visit her until I ran out of teeth. "Young madam," Randolph intruded, and Laurelei, my senior at 12 years of age, looked up and answered with adult indifference, "Yes, is this Francis Hammock Smith? Take his papers there and finish them." Randolph seized the papers with a thick hand and hulked outside the reach of her voice when Laurelei turned conspiratorially to me and demanded, "It's your 10th birthday today, is it not, Francis?" She spoke with urgency and seemed to know intimate details of my life. "How do you know it's my 10th birthday, ma'am?" I asked her. "I saw your chart, Francis," she said, although I only saw the map spread out on her desk. "I know all about you." "And call me Laurelei." "Yes, ma'am," I said. She went on, "Terrible to inflict the doctor on you on a significant day, best spent among family. In fact, I'm canceling the operation. You're coming with me." "But Aunt Rummy said I'm to have surgery." "I won't hear it, Francis," she said. "Now listen. You have mere seconds before that geological phenomenon in your employ loses patience with the papers I gave him and comes and claims you. Answer quickly. Would you like to spend the day among family and learn where your mother is? When an offer to learn the truth is made after a lifetime of ignorance, one can disobey the wishes of one's aunt. I should like very much to learn where she is, ma'am, I told her, and Laurelei came around from behind the desk, took my hand, and the first word of Randolph's protest was cut cleanly in two by the door closing behind us. Laurelei was my guardian as we pushed into the station at Canal Street against the dark crowd of overcoats and hats. I had the impulse of chivalry that I should be the one to lead our expedition, but the sheer volume of the travelers hustling and shouting against our path and Laurelei's single-minded leadership caused the thought to pass helplessly to the back of my mind. We boarded the arriving train heading south, and as we pitched from the station, perhaps as all first-time riders do, for an instant I feared we would crash. But Laurelei pretended not to see my fear, making me feel comfortably enough in my greenness that I even asked, "Where on earth are you taking me?" And as she told me, Brooklyn, a full sky thundered with light and fire escapes. City Hall and Woolworth's Tower erupted into view, and the Brooklyn Bridge straddled the glittering harbor. I feared the distance growing between myself and my home, but then Laurelei spoke. "Wipe the worry from your face, Francis. It's your birthday, you're learning the truth, and you haven't got a root canal to attend." I wondered whether I really would see a face like my own among the crowds in the New World. But I was cut off by the sharp halt of the train, and Laurelei saying, "Come see what's what." We climbed up from the station and arrived at the iron fence of a seemingly endless park, and the sky darkened and froze. "Here," Laurelei said, "lift me up." And I felt a grave responsibility as her patent leather shoe fell into my cupped hand, and she kicked my freezing ear and pulled her leg over the fleur-de-lis, sliding down the other side with the white of her bones showing where her fists gripped the poles. "Now it's your turn," she said. The coarse metal bit into my hands at the top of the bar, and I swung over the menacing iron flowers and heavily down into the hard, wet grass. I wiped the water from my burning hands, and Laurelei vanished into the dark hills. I caught up to her, and I noticed we were joined on each side by thousands of gravestones. "Why have you taken me to this place, ma'am?" I asked her, but Laurelei did not speak, and names and years dashed beside us. She turned onto a narrow path which climbed the lip of a tall hill, and I followed her. My foot caught the hard root of a tree, and my knee came down and shot full of pain, but Laurelei was turning around the bend in the hill, so I stood and skipped quickly to not lose her. As I made the final turn, I connected shoulder first with her back, and my horror was great, and the apology was quick to my lips. But before I could utter it, her soft mouth sealed mine shut, and her eyelashes bent tenderly on my cheeks. I fell into her kiss, but she pulled away and crunched the gravel path to a dark mausoleum. Wood splintered as she urged open a stubborn window panel, and one leg slipped after the other into the building. With the feeling of her face still burned in mine, I flew over the dusty window frame and came down slapping the stone floor. The white of the moon came through a broad window and painted Laurelei's face. She turned towards me, and her voice sang, "Want half my Hershey's?" The dentist's daughter raised a candy bar in two hands, and the crack of the chocolate between her fists echoed as she handed half to me. While we chewed open-mouthed, she smiled. "Do you know where you are?" she asked me. "Are we grave robbing, ma'am?" She laughed beautifully. "In a manner of speaking, Francis, although you can't steal what's yours." She stood and pulled me with her and pointed to a place above the window where embedded in the ceiling were 7 translucent gems, spelling out the 7 glittering stars in the Pleiades constellation. My hand went to my breast pocket with my mother's photograph, when the grinding of a heavy tablet turned me towards Laurelei, straining with an iron crosspiece to budge the cover of one of the coffins. I lurched to help her. "Hold it," she said, and the weight on the pole in my grip doubled as she let go to dash a fist into the tomb. Her slender arm sifted beneath the lid, and I held the crosspiece faster than anything I had ever held. It slipped. "Ah!" she cried, and I caught the bar and saw the marble pressing into her elbow. "Lift it," she choked out, and I dropped and pulled with all my weight, and Laurelei freed her arm with a dark and webbed treasure streaming from her fingers. The coffin rang shut when headlights shot through the black room, and the heavy body of a limousine churned to a halt outside the door. The exhaust steamed loudly and shut off, and then I only heard Laurelei's small and rapid breath. A shadow moved across the white headlight, revealing the inscription on the coffin, which read, "Louisa Friend." Laurelei reached within my coat and deposited the delicate and dense object she had taken inside it. She brought a hand to her lips and blew me a kiss as a key clicked into the front lock and turned. I saw a familiar large and balding man in a black overcoat with his hat pushed back above his curling brow. Randolph said, "You're rather lost, Master Francis. Now, give me that necklace she put in your pocket and come home." Since the events of my 10th birthday, I was never permitted to leave the confines of my house again, except to attend school and church. I did go on to receive proper dental care beneath the drill of a more approved physician. As a matter of course, Laurelei and Dr. Handkerchief were charged in my kidnapping, and in the plea bargain paid a heavy fine, which stripped them of his practice, and they fled New York. Today, as I dive into the workforce, I am absolutely free to tread that familiar path into the firm, like the congressman, through Congress, like the congressman, but accumulating a suitable wife and heir, most unlike him. That wandering nature can be considered utterly stamped out, and the photograph and necklace would mean nothing to me as I am today. Good heavens, I have lingered long enough. It's time that I embark on the path which begins at the law firm of Biltmore, Hook and Carver and ends I wonder if I still remember the way.